Adapting to the evolving business landscape and political landscape, insights from the All In podcast, Austin Live. So, the business world is undergoing rapid transformations, influenced by shifts in media coverage and the accelerating news cycle. Recently, the All In podcast hosted a live event in Austin featuring guests like Colin and Samir, Chris Williamson, and Brian Johnson. They shared their experiences on building audiences and navigating the challenging media environment. In this video, we'll explore how these insights relate to the evolving roles of major networks like Fox, CNN, and CNBC, and what it means for professionals and consumers alike. And once again, if you're into feeding my pooch, a like and a subscribe does wonders for Charlie. And if you have questions, please leave them in the comments section below because I love responding to anything this community has to offer. So let's talk about the shift in media consumption. Traditional news networks like Fox, CNN, CNBC have long dominated the dissemination of business news. However, the rise of digital platforms and independent content creators like me, there's a noticeable shift in how business audiences are really kind of consuming information. The evolution challenges traditional networks to adapt their strategies to maintain relevance. And if you're one of these people who have found more fun and more value of YouTube over the traditional media outlets, well, you know that we're all onto something then. This is something much bigger than us. It's really about how we're consuming information and maybe cutting through some of the garbage that's out there because we most definitely live in an age of information overload. So, there's some very, very powerful insights from the All In podcast this week, live in Austin. And this is really about how we consume news, how we consume information, and maybe to a degree, how we can really choose who our sources are. For instance, ABC, NBC, CBS used to dominate the news waves, right? They would be a triangular representation that one to another, that the truth was somewhere in between those three outlets. Then came cable news, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, just to throw a few names out there, that no longer triangulated the message in news. So now we have a complete dissemination of news that's falling into various social media outlets, including this one, which we try to cut through a lot of the garbage and not provide you with 24-hour news, instead, a more pointed message that's in tune with what you really need to hear. So, Colin and Samir discussed the importance of authentic content and direct audience engagement, and highlighting a move away from traditional gatekeepers in media. For instance, if you were to leave a message below in the comments section, I would be able to go ahead and respond to it because that's what authentic engagement really looks like. Even Q&As, right? So just make sure we're understanding that we have a different type of engagement, a different type of audience that looks for a different type of experience when it comes to social media. Chris Williamson emphasized the value of long-term content in providing depth and fostering trust in audiences, right? Because contrasting the often rapid-fire segments seen on traditional news networks that really seems like you are getting hit with information overload. Instead, we're talking about a couple themes that are super important, super engaging, and maybe most of all, super meaningful to an audience, and an audience like this one. There were some additional insights that were offered by Brian Johnson. He shared his experience with leveraging digital platforms to disseminate information, and he was also underscoring the potential of new media channels in reaching diverse demographics, just like this one. And if you're liking what you're hearing so far, then hit that like and subscribe because I do want to make sure that I'm listening to you, I'm hearing you, I'm delivering to you, and most of all, I'm engaging with your questions, your concerns, and being a good disseminator of information. At the end of the day, I want to deliver meaningful content to my audience. So, how does this all affect business and consumers alike, right? So, the changing media landscape really necessitates that business professionals stay informed through a variety of sources, including both traditional networks and emerging digital platforms. For instance, I spend a ton of time reading through a couple very valuable resources like the Wall Street Journal, just to make sure that I'm able to present an even keeled look at how news and how the business cycle and news cycle is actually operating. But for consumers, we are really encouraged to be critically and evaluate what information we're hearing. Remember, consider the source, because recognizing the strengths and interactions of different media formats really can have a powerful effect in moving you to the right understanding of any developing news story. What's really important is understanding how these shifts can better affect our decision making and our ability in rapidly evolving news cycle, media cycle, and business cycle. So, if you really like how we presented the information today and maybe kind of made you a little bit more aware about how information overload is a real thing, and maybe most importantly, how to make sure that your source where you get your media from really does speak to you, your interests, your concerns, and cover it in such a way that you really do think you're getting a fair, even, and balanced story which covers the issues that matter most to you, as opposed to some slanted view, then we're in the right place. Because the bottom line is that news consumption really does affect our personal and business life. Uh, if you have some thoughts about this, please leave your comments below because I do care about what you have to say. This community cares about what you have to say. And maybe most of all, maybe there's something that we're missing. One of the biggest things that we oftentimes do is we come to a conclusion, but one of the most important questions we can ask when we really take a look at how these things influence us, whatever comes up in the news cycle, is what do I see? What don't I see? And maybe most importantly, what am I missing that I don't understand? If we can do these things and we can do those things together, then we really do have a beginning of a very powerful channel here. I look forward to hearing from you. Remember, the biggest battle we fight is the one between our ears. Have a great day.